Much like to warmly welcome Dr. Margaret Flood, who's here all the way from Maynooth University from Ireland. A bit jet lagged, so please go gentle. 20 minutes and then we'll have questions. Don't forget to put your comments and questions in the Slido if you have any, and we'll try to get to a couple at least at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey everyone, so my name is Margaret Flood. You get by the accent that I'm not from here, I'm Irish. I'm a white woman with shoulder-length blonde purple hair, and I'm wearing a white floral top and navy trousers today. Today I'm talking to you about a fellowship program that we ran in Maynooth University just to build capacity and awareness of what universal design for learning is and how we could use it to meet our strategic goals around diversity, equity, inclusion and belonging in Maynooth University. So I'm presenting on behalf of a fellowship team here today. They all wanted to fly, I won the lottery. So it is moving. I always start every session I do with an invitation to participate because I'm modeling universal design as I go along. So I'm going to ask you to use this space in a manner that suits your learning best. It's never about the person on the top of the room. It's about everybody else. So sit, stand, eat, drink, leave the room if you need to. If you close your eyes, I'm going to presume you're processing. If you snore, I'm going to take that as constructive feedback and I'll ask somebody to nudge you. Take the opportunity to write, type, draw, or say it. Okay, again, multiple means of action and expression. And when you're given an invitation to participate, and we were talking about creating comfortable spaces earlier in other sessions, be respectful of how everyone else is learning in the room. So this is how we actually start thinking about everybody and not just yourselves. This is how I like to learn in this moment, but there are plenty of other people around me and they may be doing it different ways. Really good example, I like to stand, so I'll always sit in the back of the room so that I'm not blocking the view of people in front of me. So today we were talking about building a culture of inclusion in Maynooth University. And what I want to talk to you about is the who, the people, because that's where we need to start, the why we did it, the what we did, and the how we went about it. So starting with the who, something that made this a really successful project is that it was across faculty. So Maynooth University has streamlined their faculties into 3 faculties. So there was 4 people across the 3 faculties. And what we had to do was we had to come together with members of our Centre for Teaching and Learning, and we had to have bi-weekly meetings. What is UDL? What do we believe UDL to be? Where do we think UDL should be going in Maynooth University? Who else should be involved? So they were the conversations. Sorry, I told you I'd move. So they're the conversations that we were having. Please remind me again. So let's start with the why. And the why was really about the values of Maynooth University and the policies around DEIB, inclusion and UDL in Ireland. So first of all, it was aligning with national policy and initiatives. So we have a path forward. So this is a higher education department funding bank. It's millions of euro every couple of years, and they pick a path. And the path 4 was inclusion. And within that path was a streamline of universal design for learning. You also heard Sean talk about the Altitude Charter for Tertiary Education on universal design. And one of the pillars within that is teaching and learning, and universal design for learning comes in with that as well. That was the national, but we really wanted to bring it down to the who and the policy and what Maynooth University is about. So we wanted to make sure that it was supporting the commitment to our principles and our values in Maynooth University. We wanted to ensure that it support the enactment of UDL for inclusive education and teaching and learning practice across Maynooth University. And this is why this was across faculty in collaboration with Centre of Teaching and Learning project. And then the intention of the fellowship, there was a lot. So, you have to get buy-in because most fellows are individual and you go do whatever you want. Whereas this was, no, you have to work with other people to do this. So in Maynooth University, our fellows do come with prestige. So you're brought, you get an award, it's up on the website, it's valued when you go for promotion. So there was that prestige element to it for those of us who were the fellows. Again, creating a profile not only within your department, but across those faculties and at the higher echelons of university level, because we were invited to those important talks that faculty staff don't often get invited to. Then there was the collaborative learning and the building of UDL capacity and awareness, which was really important, first of all, for the fellows, because we wanted to make sure that we had an understanding of UDL, and then how we could share a common message. We wanted to make sure we were singing off the same hymn sheet before we moved out into the campus to say, this is what UDL is about. And then this was really important. It was about identifying and celebrating, surfacing good practices that were already happening, but nobody knew about them because we weren't talking explicitly about UDL at the time. So when we talk about the what is broken into a couple of different aspects. So this is the project. What was the UDL Fellow about? And the project aim was about embedding UDL principles in our teaching, learning, and assessment practices as part of inclusive education. Now, an add-on that intuitively came to this was, how are we embedding those principles in our library, in how security interact with everyone on campus, how estates, maintenance, IT services. So it became bigger than how we perceive teaching and learning assessment to be about what happens in the classroom. It was about learning in all aspects of campus life. So the project, the UDL Fellow, was broken into 3 different sections, and I'm going to talk through each of these sections for you. So once we built our own capacity as a team of UDL Fellows, the first thing we set about doing was creating resources that we could share with our colleagues. Then we ran 2 awareness campaigns, and we created MU exemplars. And when we created these MU exemplars, we were really conscious that we were creating something based on our understanding. So we invited international peer reviews of these exemplars to make sure that we were actually doing what we had said on the label. So that's the what, the how. So the first of those 3 were those open education resources. And there is a QR code link, and the code is on the bottom for anybody who can't find it. And this is just going to bring you to our UDL page on the Maynooth University website. And the first thing you'll see on that is our open education resources. And this was really spelling out what universal design for learning is, but putting it into the context of our university. So we could very easily have gone to the CAST website and pulled everything they have, because yes, they're telling us what UDL is, but that has nothing to do with our principles and our values in MU. So we really wanted to bring it back to the who and what we are about. So we looked at the positive outcomes of universal design for learning, because that's the buy-in. So this is what you're getting if you come with us and you join the UDL bandwagon. And then we looked at universal design for learning and inclusive education, specifically in Maynooth University. We didn't shy away from what's wrong with UDL because it's not perfect. So we put up a piece about anticipating and addressing challenges in UDL. And then we talked about how we can address those challenges so that we can still implement UDL for the success of our learners. We talked about universal design for learning, the principles and the guidelines. I will put a caution up here. We did this when it was 2.2, so we still have to update to 3.0, and we've put a notice on the website for anybody who goes into it. So, and I have that there to remind myself as well. So then we also looked at what the research is telling us. And again, this has come up in other conversations. We can't just take UDL at face value. We have to look at what the research is out there. And especially when you're trying to sell this to academics, they want to know who has tried what, how did it work out? They want the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then we finish with, why is it important to Maynooth University? Why is it back to the who? Why is it important for us as faculty? Why is it important for the learners who are coming into our community every day? Then we started looking at our awareness campaign. And this fellowship was a one-year fellowship, but it was so successful, they actually extended us into year 2. And they did offer us year 3, but actually we have said that we're going to step back and we'd like them to offer it to some new fellows because we've already built their capacity. So we want to pay it forward and continue to build that. So in year 1, we have a social justice week every year in Maynooth University. And this is where we introduced universal design from learning from a social justice perspective, from our DEIB. We are a sanctuary university, so we really brought in that element when we're inviting learners into our safe space. What are we doing to ensure that it is a safe, welcoming space for them? Following that, we ran a 4-week campaign, and we didn't talk about what is UDD. We talked about what is UDL. I do this all the time. I stand up, I make a presentation, and I notice all my spelling mistakes when it's on the big screen. Okay, so that's my little barrier. So we started with an email, a short note, and a little chat, an invitation to chat with us about what is UDL. And in this session, it was mostly the fellows doing the talking, and then we invited people to go, is anything resonating with you? Are you doing anything we said here, but you're not calling it UDL? And we said, okay, you're an accidental UDLer. Come along with us, join us. We're a cult, welcome. Not in those exact words, but that's what I was doing. Then our second week was one small step to UDL. So we were really trying to make everyone understand that UDL isn't this big, massive overnight shift in change in how we think and how we practice and how we design, that you can make one small change at a time. And that small change has to be contextual to who you are teaching, what you're teaching, and the environment that you're in. After we did that we went back to come join our cult. We said, come pledge your +1 to us. What one UDL change, small change, are you going to make that's going to make a big difference to your learners? And then we followed that by an open mic where we asked people to share your +1. So you went away and you thought about it, you made a change, come back and share that with us now. And then we created UDL fellow comic book strips. And I do have them with me, but I wasn't expecting so many people in the room. So if you would like the few I have afterwards, please come up and I'll give them to you. And it was really just, we had a comic strip from the beginning, the middle, and the end of year 1. So just we sent it out to all of the departments. We put them up in little posters. And it was a fun way to just share the message and condense it into 3 A4 pages. So I've got the comic strips from year 1, and we're just working on the year 2 comic strips now. So in year 2, we upped our game. And we did a 5-week campaign. And this was a meet and greet, an online, come along with us for 30 minutes. And we're going to delve into different aspects of UDL in each of these sessions. So the first one was a general introduction. This is what we're about. We're building on what happened last year. So if you missed last year and you want to know about it, come and we'll have a chat with you. And then we're going to move into really diving a little bit deeper in it. So we started with the MU, UDL, and U, and went to the who in UDL. So this was all about 3.0. So the who in UDL was new to everyone on campus. So we spent 30 minutes just talking about where the who comes across each of our 3 principles in UDL and what that means in terms of identity and respecting and acknowledging and being representative of the identity of not only our learners, but our colleagues on campus as well. In week 2, we looked at design for representation, and I've the names of my colleagues who did each week as we went through it. Week 3, we did design for action and expression, and week 4, we did engagement. And each of us gave our own lived experiences of how we were bringing this to life in our classroom. So again, we were bringing it down to, this is Maynooth University. This is how it's looking, not only at a campus level, but at a faculty level, and then at an individual department and classroom level as well. We also put out a pre and a post survey in year 2, and we're just gathering the data on that. We had really good turnout. So the same people were coming every week, and then they were bringing a pal because they were going, oh, we heard about this, and we were sharing the videos. So the pal could watch the video from the previous week and then come along. And then we are in the end processes of writing up a report of what happened over the 2 years. And again, the report is the good and the bad. We're not saying this was all shiny and wonderful. We are very cognizant of the challenges out there. And the session I attended yesterday, resources, being one of the big challenges, and time as well. So the final part of the project was the one change, and it was a +1 approach. And I've just listed all of the +1s there for you to have a look at. And I was going to say look at them now, but I've got my 5 minutes, so we won't. And what they are is just saying, this is an example of what you can do. It's going to take you 5 to 10 minutes, and this is one change you've made. We gave a little introduction to say we're calling these +1 because that's UDL language, but this is not extra work. This is a change. You might be taking something out of your lesson, not just adding something to the lesson. And again, as I said, these were peer reviewed. Frederick Fauvet is here with us over the last 2 days, and he was one of our peer reviewers. So we weren't, again, looking at Ireland. We were getting international experts to say, yes, you're on the right track. And they came back and they said, no, actually, some of these aren't really hitting the mark, and we had to go back and we had to redesign them and make some more changes again. So we're not exploring a +1 because I'm terrible at timekeeping. And then just in terms of impact for the fellowship, it was really important that we had a shared understanding and a shared message of what UDL was, and that we needed to collaborate, that yes, we can do it in pockets, but it's better when we're together. In terms of the impact from Maynooth University, we've created that hub of resources that I hope you have a look at and that you might get some ideas from. The increased UDL awareness. We had that opportunity to liaise with our senior leaders. So we were invited into the big person's room, the grown-up room, and we were asked our opinions. And some of them were actually taken on board, which was really heartwarming in terms of we're doing all this work, but is anybody really listening? I've already said we worked with international reviewers. We've received national and international recognition for this fellowship. We've the reports. We have started, our virtual learning space is Moodle, and we've started adapting that now and putting training up there. And then it's just impacting teaching, learning, and assessment impacts for all of our learners. And this is where I wanted to end, if you wouldn't mind putting up the other, is that impact on our learners.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here and thank you for letting me participate. So I'm here to speak about what UDL has been like for me as a student. So I'm a current student of MAGS. I'm also very fortunate to also be in her tutor group. So I really get all UDL all the time. At first it was a bit of a shock to the system, just coming from an undergrad. So I did English and German in my undergrad. In humanities, very essay based. I'm doing a lot of reading, a lot with languages. So I never had too much choice. Obviously, you have choice in what you read, but I found focusing in on the principle of action and expression, I never had much choice there. It was actually recently, so I am a student teacher, and as I'm in Mag's tutor group, she comes out to visit me on placement. And we had a discussion after my lesson about my post-lesson reflections. So that is our way of demonstrating our learning throughout the lesson. What do we feel went well? What can we do different next time? And Mags made a very helpful comment that she didn't feel like my reflections were genuine. She didn't feel like it was me. So I was typing them maybe 3 or 4 sentences after each lesson. And I agreed with her. I felt like it wasn't what I actually thought. I was more so typing them to get them done. So speaking together, we decided voice notes or voice recordings would be a much more genuine way for me to get my thoughts across. So my object is my phone. So every evening when I come home from placement, sit just not even 5 minutes and talk into the phone what I think went well, what I'll do next time. And I find as I'm doing it, the thoughts are flowing and I kind of catch myself thinking of things as I'm speaking. Whereas if I was to handwrite them or type them, I can't keep up with my thoughts fast enough. So this way of expression has really changed the way that I've engaged with this demonstration of my learning and has absolutely benefited me. Another small example of how we used it, last year in the first year of PME, we did a lot of micro teaching. So teaching with fellow people in my group, and we taught a lesson, and our assessment of our learning was to do a 10-minute presentation, connecting what we did in the lesson, our reflections, with some theoretical framework. We were told we could do a presentation, and then it was explained to us we could do it in form of a typical presentation that you'd see. We could do a video, an interview, or a role play. So myself and my group thought role play, and we kind of ran with it, and we decided to do our presentation and our lesson reflection in the form of an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. So it sounds a bit mad, but it actually worked very, very well. It completely changed the way we viewed the assignment. So we were no longer dreading, oh my God, I've stand up here for 10 minutes and talk about theories and reflections. We were really excited. We had each got our own persona of which Kardashian sister we were. And we really were more engaged with the activity. We wanted this to come across well. When we were pitching it to one of our lecturers, we'd really like to act like the Kardashians in front of everyone. We really wanted to prove, no, we can actually still get the information across. We can still demonstrate our learning. So we still achieved our intended learning, but we had a great time doing it, and it was much more accessible to us. We still had our slides and our theoretical framework, but we also got to engage more kind of wholeheartedly. We really had to think about what we wanted to say, with the added element of, can we express this in a way that comes across as the learning, but also shows that we've engaged with this well. So overall, UDL has really allowed me a more genuine connection with education, I think. I really find I'm learning the way that suits me best, and there's always opportunities and different ways to access it. But I've been really grateful for MAGS and all the opportunities from the education department to really just express and engage with our learning in a way that suits us best. Thank you.
And that's me finished. I bribed her for that. So she did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Margaret. That did feel like the quickest 20 minutes of my life, so I'm sure it was even quicker for you. There are a couple of questions in the Slido, and I'm getting a call. Let me just hang that up. Sorry about that, everybody. There's two questions that are sort of similar, and it's looking at the wider community. So beyond the academic unit, are there any outstanding examples from like support services or safe spaces or other areas around the university that you could give us an example of that benefited from that UDL approach?
Yeah, so the first one was the library, and I've heard the library services be mentioned in other talks today. So they really started thinking about how the learners were accessing the library, the system in finding the books. So they created color-coded signposting. They brought students in so that they could co-design. We created more sensory spaces. So we were moving into very much into the quiet zone space. And one of the students says, well, actually, my sensory is the other way. I need to bang a ball against a wall. So now we're in the process of creating sensory spaces that work across the continuums. Obviously, we won't have a bouncing ball in a quiet space, but we're doing things like that. In terms of our students' union, they've become very engaged in Universal Design for Learning now. So as part of the fellowship, they came in year 2. They told us what they thought we were doing. They told us where we were lacking in terms of we were just pulling in our own students who we knew were successful. What about the students who weren't getting this experience? And one other final thing we did is that we redesigned our DEIB module for staff. And we designed it through the lens of Universal Design for Learning. So they came in, they thought they were like doing DEIB, and they got a whole, here's Universal Design for Learning, and here's how it's going to create DEIB culture in Maynooth and create more success for our learners.
Thank you. It does sound like a cult. One more question. I think we've got time for one more. Are you able to see how much engagement there is with the resources, just to sort of get an idea of the potential impact on staff practice?
There is, I don't have that data, and it was our Centre for Teaching and Learning who are looking after that website. So yes, they have set up a system where we can see how many people have clocked in. Also, after each of our 30-minute meets in year 2, we got emails. We invited people, come email us after you've processed this. So each week I would have got between 15 and 25 emails just asking, where can I find, what can I do, or will you have a look at this and see if I'm on the right track. I've also had people ask, can they come in and audit one of my lessons as well? So we're starting that from next year.
Your timing is impeccable. So everyone, could we just please thank Dr. Margaret Flood